Okay, this video is part 2 of the book, How to Read a Painting by Patrick de Rynck. And I'm just going to show a couple paintings. There's tons of paintings in this book. I'll just show a couple of them. Ones that I was less familiar with compared to the other ones. I'm familiar with all of them, but here is Jupiter, also known as Zeus. You know, he's got Jupiter is the Roman name, Zeus is the Greek name, and Io. Io is one of the many women that he falls in love with, okay? And so he comes to her like in the form of a cloud, and he seduces her. So Zeus was always looking at mortal women and falling in love or in lust with them, you might say. And one of the points I want to make is Roman Catholic Church from 30 AD to 530 AD, it coexisted with paganism, with the Roman paganism system. And I think they go well together. So Roman Catholic Church is much more fun and open-minded than Protestantism. And it has all the saints. It celebrates the Virgin Mary, the traditional family. It has saints' days, feast days, all this fun stuff. And as Will Durant said, it didn't completely replace or reject paganism. It adopted it. And what I mean by that is, there's all the religious stuff, you know, follow the Ten Commandments, the teachings of Christ, be good. But the Christian cultures, you know, loved all this ancient Greek stuff. And they'd often paint romantic, erotic, you know, things with men and women. And it was a place where you could do that. And it kind of reminds me of country music. There's country music of the religious songs, Sunday in church. And there's also country music of things that happen in a bar on Saturday night. And I think it's good to have them both. So anyways, there's the romantic pose, and it kind of reminds you of Bernini's St. Teresa paint sculpture. And just like, you know, in the colleges, let's say you go to a religious college, you're going to go to church on Sunday, but Saturday night is Greek fraternity party night, okay? And all these Italian Renaissance people, this is an Italian painter of the Italian Renaissance, Antonio Correggio, they loved the Greek mythology for painting romantic things and things about sex, okay? And it's good to have it that way. It's an outlet. And it's not, you know, ideal behavior, but there's a place for it. And here is St. Luke painting the Virgin. This is another, I showed you one of these before. This is the one by one of these Dutch painters, Maarten van Heemskerck. And again, this is by St. Luke. He's the author of the Gospel according to Luke, but he also was a doctor, and he's also the patron saint of painters. So there's the Virgin Mary with the Christ child. Okay. And here's another one of these Greek mythology stories where Apollo, the all-seeing sun god, had seen that Ares, the god of war, was having an affair, adultery, with Aphrodite, Venus, the god of love and beauty. And Vulcan, who's actually the husband of Aphrodite, was not happy about it. Apollo told him about it. Vulcan created this net of bronze to throw over them and trap them and hold them prisoner. And other Greek gods like Zeus and Athena, Minerva are looking on, and Diana, and sort of finding the whole thing amusing. Okay, Mercury is there as well. So again, it's that same idea of they thought it was fun to paint these types of scenes with the Greek gods. Now, if they painted a woman in the form of being like a prostitute or something, that would be considered very vulgar. But if they paint these types of scenes in the context of the Greeks, then it was considered appropriate. Classicism, you know, classicals, ancient Greeks and Romans, okay? And so it was a way that they could paint nudes and women's and frolicking of this sort and have it still be considered educational, acceptable to polite, educated society. And that's another reason why they liked it. Okay, this one's by Joachim, I can't even say that name, Whittiel from 1601. Okay, now here is something a little bit different but similar still. All right, this is Alexander the Great, and he's in the studio, art studio of the ancient Greek painter, the great Apelles. Okay, so this would be about 330 330 BC before Christ, and they're painting Campaspe. She is the most beautiful favorite mistress of Alexander the Great, the sort of the greatest military general of all time up to that point. And while he's painting her in the nude, he falls in love with her, Apelles. And Apelles doesn't really have that many female options, unlike Alexander the Great could have any woman he wants. And so Alexander the Great, really likes Apelles. He's the best painter in all of ancient Greece. And he says, you love her, you like her, you can have her. And he gives Campaspe, his mistress, to Apelles the painter. And one of the things you'll notice is the beautiful studio of Apelles, all these great paintings. And the thing I mentioned to you about it is that this is really characteristic of the ancient Greeks. They're like the Catholics. They loved painting and they loved sculpture. And this is really unique to the West. If you look at all these modern societies, multiculturalism is nonsense. The Christians, the ancient Greeks and the Christians are the only ones who love all this stuff. The other cultures, they don't do much of it. I see a little bit in like the Hindu church, a little bit of sculpture, but it's kind of a weird sculpture. It's not that human, the god, elephant god with 8 arms, what the heck is that? Okay, there's nothing like Christianity and the ancient Greeks for sculpture and art and music. It's the best. It's not even kind of the best. It's the best by a factor of 10,000, okay? And again, though, you're seeing the same theme. These neoclassical themes whereby they're educational, but at the same time there's something erotic and fun about them. And I think that's a great thing about Christian culture. What I'm trying to say, what I like about the Catholic Church, and why I think it's 10,000 times better than any of the Protestant branches, it's been around since Christ. It has a sense of humor. It wants to enjoy life here on earth. It loves to joke around and make mischievous, clever little jokes, okay? Protestantism comes from 1517, Martin Luther, sola fide, only faith, sola biblia, only the Bible, sola scriptura, okay, sola gratia, only grace, and the Bible and Scripture. And what I'm trying to say is it's no fun, and it's self-righteous nonsense. It's founded by a man. Luther's a man. He's not a god. Catholic Church founded by Jesus, and it was Catholics who wrote the Bible, and it was consolidated by the Catholic Church, Constantine and the rest of them finally around 400 AD. And the Catholic Church was around for 370 years before that. And it makes life fun. That's why you want it. Nobody knows what's going to happen in the afterlife. The teachings of Christ get everybody to be nice to each other. The attitude of the Catholic Church, all the saints' feast days and stuff, it makes things a lot of fun. I went to Catholic school for a while. It's the best. I mean, don't get me wrong, the current Pope's the Antichrist piece of crap. But there's no other cultures that celebrate all this art and sculpture and music that are anywhere near as much fun, anywhere near as good at literature and architecture. It's just a fact. Okay, here's just another version of the same theme. This is Alexander the Great, looking pretty studly. Apelles the painter, painting Campaspe, falling in love with her, and Alexander the Great says, you're in love with her, you can have her. I'll get another mistress. She's for you. Okay, that's all I got here. So it's a decent book, Patrick de Rynck's book on how to read a painting. If you like art, it's mostly, all art, like I'd say, from before 1740. But it's good for that sort of art. It's a pretty thick book. Anyways, hope you found that helpful.